Family, what's up? What's up? What's up? Let's get that echo under control. There we go. Go, 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 go. What's up, family? Peace and love. We are back. Season 7, episode 1. What's happening? Welcome to the Tuesday Takeover. Do me a favor, share this out right now on your network because it's going to get so good today. And if you're not following us on YouTube, then you're not supporting independent media. So go on over to YouTube and follow CTN Media, where we continue to change the narrative, challenge the narrative, create the narrative, cultivate the narrative, and we're doing it all with you. So don't be afraid to super chat us up today. Thumbs up, make comments. Let's get it going live. It's season 7, episode 1, and you are back with the 7 Generations crew. Super excited to have you here today. Again, drop this in someone's DM. And the conversation is going to get really unbossed, You know how the 7 Gen crew gets down. If you don't know, well, you'll know today. So welcome again. We're going to be talking about, can the best ever rest? Welcome to 7 Generations Black, the podcast powered to equip and inform you, clear your lens, and present you with a new perspective with my amazing panel. Welcome Theo E.J. Wilson of Shop Talk Live, Mr. LETHOL, the Honorable Protector Initiative, my girl Jice Johnson of the Black Business Initiative, holding it down for the ladies and holding down the grub in the tum. Mr. H. So the Righteous Rage Institute. This is 7 Generations Black. I'm your host, Shay J. Welcome. Peace, family. What's up? Welcome back. You're still protesting, H. So is that what you're doing? This is his protest. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. Why he's protesting. That's fine. To the rest of you, welcome back. Season 7, episode 1. Let me first say, this is my favorite show, and I'm excited to be back here with you. So welcome. Let's get into it. And if you haven't shared this out, just go ahead and do it right now so we can get this thing hopping off right. Now, this episode has been powered by none other than the Black Boss Summit. Yes, it's time for the 5th annual Black Boss Summit, and this year is bigger than ever. Let's talk about, we know you're resilient people. We are resilient, but how do we adapt, perform, and thrive? We are going to get into this, and it's going down with the tycoon of real estate investing, Mr. Chris Senegal, my girl from Gojo Auto, one of the first females to own their own car dealership, the one and only Amanda Gordon. And then the keynote that you've all been waiting for, the question mark has been filled in. The author, the activist, Mr. Black Wall Street himself, Mr. Hill Harper. Yes, it's going down. So you want to grab those tickets because seats are limited in person. Go ahead and grab your seats. $249 in person. And when I tell you it's went from 1 day to 3 days, each of these days are going to blow your mind. We're starting off with our inaugural Pitch Black contest hosted by your girl Shay J and Mr. Richard Lewis. Now we're giving away $10,000. I know you watch Shark Tank, but it's time to pitch black. So you want to be a part of this Pitch Black, and this networking experience is going to be phenomenal with our rooftop party. And then we take you over to our regular event on Saturday, which will present some other speakers that you'll get to know, and we'll be releasing those throughout the weeks to come. And then Sunday, we're wrapping it up with me and your girl Jice Johnson. You're sitting down with the creators and Mr. Hill Harper himself. Grab your tickets. If you can't join us for the full weekend, grab an a la carte seat to Pitch Black or Cannabis and Conversations, which you'll be seeing that drop as well. So when I tell you this weekend is on fire, I don't care where you're at, grab a seat, hop in that airplane, and we got a hotel for you. We want to see you in the Mount High City. Again, this is September 10th through the 12th, the 5th annual Black Boss Summit. Let's go. Don't meet us there, but beat us there. All right, team. We're back. We're back in action. You guys are back here. Let me intro this topic for today. Now, in 2021, the world still sees Black bodies as a means of entertainment. Surprise? No. While many are praising these young Black goats for taking a stance on mental and physical health, the white backlash or the Whitelash has been brutal. We are seeing a new trend emerge in Black mental health. And are we protecting our Black excellence? Can the best ever rest? I mean, this conversation is going to get good again. It's going to be, can the best ever rest? But I got to hit you with a red pill alert. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. This is your opportunity to stop listening and tune out now. Well, if you do, the story ends, and you can wake up in your bed and believe whatever it is you want to believe. However, if you take the 7 generations red pill, you stay here with us in a liberatory discussion, and we show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. As always, the choice is yours. Welcome again to 7 Generations Black. Can the best ever rest? I don't know, because when I picked up the Washington Times, let me tell you, we're talking about the most decorated female Olympic. Simone Biles has been killing it since 2013. She has not went without getting a medal. And when I picked up the Washington Times, buddies, what I seen was Simone Biles, no hero. She's a quitter. So when we say, can the best rest, I have some questions in that aspect. I mean, we've seen Sha'Carri, who even told you guys, like, my mom died. I found on a national TV. I'm going to have to take a little break there, and I'm going to have to smoke a little weed. She got put out. We seen Naomi come through and say, y'all, I don't want to do any more interviews. This is too much pressure on me. I just want to get up and do my sport and go home. There was backlash for that. It's becoming a thing now. We're really saying, are we protecting these athletes? Are we protecting Black excellence? Can the best ever rest? Especially when the best are Black, there seems like there's no rest for the weary. I'm going to kick it off with my guy, H. So since you're protesting, I feel like you should protest by using your voice. Now, Red Cup Soldier over there, can the best ever rest? I need to hear from you, H. So, and I need you to protect these Black women. So go ahead. See, you got to do him like that when he's eating. It gets crazy. And he's on mute, too. He wants to eat, be on mute. He's really protesting. You need to
listen. I'm going to tell the people later what protest is all about.
Everybody get that echo off. Somebody go on mute.
I wonder who the somebody is.
Jice. Yeah. She's co-communicating with the thirst trap over there. So
as long as the thirst trap sends us out to somebody new, because we need some new viewers this season, thirst trap, help us out. Send this to a friend.
So here's the issue that I'm trying to balance here.
Okay.
I'm wondering if so today's athlete, of course, is dealing with a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Are they dealing with more pressure than the Arthur Ashes and the Babe Ruths and I don't think so. So what I think that we're actually looking at here is the fact that we are starting to lose Black resiliency. And I think that's a product of the fact that we are starting to have athletes now that are only performing for themselves, right? They see themselves as individuals because the culture has pushed them as individuals. Whereas beforehand, when you had Tommy Smith and these people, they were representing the culture. They were representing a whole people. And because they were representing a whole people, that gave them the energy and the fortitude to push through and make sure that they were representing for the people. But when you start to represent yourself, or when the culture supports you representing yourself as an individual, when times get hard, when the pressure gets hard, you will fold. And I don't mean to say that these people are weak. I don't think it's endemic of the individuals. I think it's endemic of individualism that has taken over Black communities.
Man, brother, that's how hard you started in season 7.
Listen, I gotta represent, because I can't get on the montage. I gotta prove my worth during the show.
I'm gonna get you on. I'm actually gonna just do a private session. I'm gonna do an 8 soul only one, and we're gonna get you on. This is
I want my brothers with me.
You want your brothers with you? Oh, see, you're not an individualism.
I'm not an individual. I'm from a different generation.
Okay, I need to hear, and I really want to hear this too, Jice. I gotta call you out. You know, as women, I think that we're looking at a lot of female athletes. Like, let's be real about this. We're looking at a lot of female athletes. Now, Black women have a life expectancy rate 3 years shorter than the average white woman, and we know that is related to stress. Let's be real. 1 out of 2 Black women suffers from some type of heart disease, stress in some type of way. Stress is literally killing the Black woman. Where are you at right now? Can the best rest? What is your opinion on all this?
And so first, I was not expecting that at all, and I want to dig into that because that's a very valid perspective, you know. I also feel like we are looking at some of the best of the best of the best that we've ever seen, right? And for a number of different reasons. I mean, there's all type of training and things like that have been able to enhance what our athletes are able to do and all of that. But quite frankly, like those who are getting the most backlash are like literally the most decorated, the top, like the GOAT. Yep. And what I think is interesting is, not just so much about the resilience, because this is a different type of protest. Like this is another way to represent the culture, right? Because those athletes, to your point, they're getting out here and they're combating. They're not really fighting for their skill or their talent, right? Like they were talented, they were skilled, they were GOATs. Now they're fighting because of violent white racism that doesn't allow us to be great in all the areas that we're great in, right? And also, puts us on only for their entertainment. As soon as we get too big, they want to pull us back. They want to try to control what that looks like. In this space, what I see is, and I don't know if they're doing it as another form of protest or whatever, but I think that it's interesting, the dynamics of talking about Black mental health and then watching athletes who, in a lot of ways, lead trend and lead culture, put their mental health first, right? And then what does that actually look like? Because is it that we're losing resiliency, or is it that our athletes have not been able to get proper access to mental health before? Because we've seen a lot of our, prior and old athletes and things of that sort. I think, who is it right now? Like, I think it's Mike Tyson has this whole little thing out now where he's like throwing all his old, stuff. Like, man, all this is just bullshit, right? Like, who needs all this? Because look what his body went through, right? And so, like, I think there's another level of mental health that wasn't available, or health in general that wasn't available to our prior athletes that, that is now coming to the forefront. And then how do we honor the conversation around needing mental health and being clear about the fact that the Black community does not access mental health, and then also saying, are we losing resiliency? Like, which side is it on, right? But that being said, the point about the stress, like, absolutely, like, stress is a killer, right? And so for Black women in particular, and I'm only speaking from a Black woman lens, so I'm not about to pit our Black men and our Black women together about who has it worse. I'm just going to speak from a Black woman. For Black women in particular, I absolutely think it's important for us to prioritize our mental health. There are so many different standards that we have to acknowledge and be on. It's refreshing for me to see that this is the case. And I don't know if it's consciously or not in alignment with the needs of the Black community. I hope that it is. Some of these young women, some of them sound like they have some idea of what's going on. And some of them are very much individualistic. And so, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but from a Black woman's perspective, I'm all for it.
I think you hit on so many things, and I would like to toss it to one of my brothers over here, Lethal or Theo, if you can pick this aspect up. I think that we're looking at two sides of the story, right? We're looking at the side of like these Black female athletes saying, okay, we're trying to take care of our health. And we're looking at the side of these Black women are literally saying, I feel like I'm holding the weight of America on my shoulders. America that's never been there for us, right? As a Black people. America that's never done us any right in these spaces. But yet they go out here, they know what they've signed up for. So let's not get it twisted. We know what they've signed up for, but they're literally saying we're carrying this weight. So now when we have these top tier Black athletes that are carrying the aspirations of Black Americas and the fears of white Americas, and both of these, how does this tie into the broader conversation of the Black American experience? Because I think it really ties in. And how do we make those correlations?
If Simone Biles flipped gymnastics in a private gym where nobody was watching, that means that she did it for herself, right? Like, I do actually a mild form of gymnastics. I'm a capoeista. I do it for fitness and I do it for health. At my age, like, I can still turn a one-handed cartwheel and like hit a round off and go over my head and back, right?
Oh, wow.
Because I do it for me, right? And if you realize that you're doing it for spectators, be honest about the game all the way through. I do wonder if there's a healthy way to retain the resilience without the toxic breakdowns. I hear people when they're saying that we sacrifice way too much in body and mind for a sport, but we're also endorsed like millions of dollars as well, right? We also have generational wealth from these athletic pursuits if you don't blow it all on hookers and coke, right? Like Mike Tyson did. So it's like, all right, I'm thinking about Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion of the world, who went up and beat the white heavyweight champion of the world while they were calling him nigger from the audience. And everybody who was there retorted how Jack Johnson laughed at them. Is I'll be a strong beat your ass nigga today, right? Then Jack Johnson had to deal with the fact that every time he beat a white man, black people got lynched. Every single victory for Jack Johnson proved to be a micro Black Wall Street for the rest of us. That's pressure.
That's pressure.
And so true, Jack Johnson also fell into a life of alcohol and prostitution. They called him a sporting man. He was just a whoremonger, right?
And white women.
And white women, right? But the fact is that how do I tap into that ancestral gift, right? Because I do fear for the resilience of our folks. How do you self-care without coddling? There's a balance, right? And I think this is a healthy discussion, which means that we need to find that line. But Jesse Owens won the Olympics with literal Adolf Hitler staring down on him. No bullshit, representing the fate of like not only Americans at the Olympics, but the athletic prowess of the entire black race and what could happen to him at the destruction of the illusion of Aryan supremacy under the gaze of the Führer himself. That's pressure. So I'm just trying to see, like, what does this, like, how do we balance this out? Because the thing that makes black athletes great is the unfair pressure. The middle passage accelerated natural selection process, highly unfair, but it made us great, right? The expectations of white supremacy, where we have to be twice as good to get just as much, unfair, but it makes us great. And somewhere along the line, white folks took note of our resilience and the pressure that we can succeed and excel under. It's fucked up, but we're capable. Now let's have this conversation, right? Because I don't want Simone Biles to get hurt like that other gymnast did. They showed this other white gymnast back in the day who like broke a leg trying to land some shit and she won, but she broke a leg, right? I don't want that to happen, but what's the balance? Because if we don't figure out the resilience piece, we're going to just slip into coddling and everybody's going to feel bad if they don't appreciate the praise of it. There's a balance.
That's such a great, there's a lot of great commentary in there. When I think about trying to find that balance, I would love to hear Lethal. What is the difference when you talk about your Joe Louis, your Jesse Owens, your Jack Johnson, your Paul Robinson, when we go there, our Arthur Ashes, all those things, what are the difference between what we're seeing with them and the athletes of today? What is that difference in how they're taking care of their mental health?
So I think to a certain degree, first of all, what everybody said so far makes sense, right? But there's an aspect that I think has been and is consistently overlooked. And it's not just the loss or lack of or resiliency, and it's not just the expectations of white America. It's also the expectations that we as Black people put on our athletes as well. We put a lot of pressure on these people. We expect them to carry a torch representing us. And we call them things like the greatest of all time, not understanding and realizing that words have meanings, and the meanings of words, they do matter. And when you put pressure on someone and you're calling them the greatest of all time, outside of the context of, let's use Simone Biles. She's the greatest, or maybe one of the greatest gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? But I heard on the news the other day where they referred to her as the greatest athlete. That's a different context right there.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? And that puts a ton of pressure on people. You understand what I'm saying? And some of these people, I mean, the end of the day, the bottom line is some people, pressure doesn't turn them into diamonds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to understand, and I think respect and acknowledge our role as a community that we play in this, right? Because when I sent it out to my network, the topic out to my network, I didn't say whitelash. I said backlash, because black people were kicking Simone in her ass as well.
Yeah.
Black people were calling her out as well.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Which is indicative of the amount of unfair, undue pressure being placed on her, right? But here's the thing that we have to understand. She has a legitimately diagnosed mental health issue, ADHD, that she takes medication for. And that medication is banned in Japan. And I don't know anyone out there who lives a lifestyle where you have to take these medications for balancing purposes that can just, for any moment of time, stop, turn them off, and go through withdrawal without going through withdrawal. You understand what I'm saying? And still be okay. You know, the twisties, I'm a person who suffers from vertigo. You dig what I'm saying? And if the twisties are anything close to what vertigo is, or worse than what vertigo is, yo, I got to acknowledge, I feel sympathy for her. You understand what I'm saying? And I was one of the people who applied and put pressure on her. You understand what I'm saying? Who was looking at it from the perspective of, it's not really about how far, what it's not really about what you've accomplished, right? It's about what you've overcome. You understand what I'm saying? And I looked at it from the prism and perspective of, you know, Michael Jordan dropped 50 on Utah while having the flu and had to be carried off the court. But that was wrong on my part. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to be willing as a people to evolve and understand that the amount of pressure that we're putting on our own is also creating and contributing to this issue. For every one finger that we point out, we got 3 of them pointing back at us, which means, in my opinion, we're 3 times more responsible.
Man, I'm so glad you said that, Lethal, because literally, I was doing some research and reading some articles. And, people that don't know, after the Olympics, they do this exhibition thing right after the Olympics. And people were saying, black and white, I'm not going to see her. I'm not showing up. My kids are not going to know what a quitter looks like. I'm not showing my kids how to quit. And so literally, Simone Biles went and competed on today and won a bronze medal. And I think a lot of that was simply because of the backlash that she was receiving, to show everybody, like, I'm capable. But she was in a space of, before, not knowing if the twisties would allow her to accomplish what she knows she's able to do. And I don't think sometimes we realize that mental health is a real thing, and we minimize it, especially in the black community. So when you have the black community that doesn't even deal with mental health issues, but yet comes and says, I'm not going to show my kid what a quitter is. But you don't give your kids a real means of survival either. You don't show your kids how to get real mental health either.
I hear that, but here's the thing. If she suffers from this,
ain't no if, bro. Ain't no if.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if she suffers from it, and she does, then I have to question choosing a line of work or a line of performance, or that is by itself has a nature of this type of pressure, right? Like this is not it's like, if you're going to choose mental health, and she should, then choosing mental health also has a lot to do with what type of situations and what type of professions you put yourself into. And I'm glad that she has the talent. But what I'm saying is, if she cannot perform without chemical substances to help balance her out, and if she goes to Japan and Japan is made it illegal for what reason, I'm not exactly sure, but it is a substance of some sort, right? Then I think the conversation around mental health needs to start with, and this is to Lethal's point, it needs to start with, okay, what type of situations am I willing to put myself into, or for what? Like, if I'm going to prioritize my mental health, then maybe gymnastics is not the place that I need to put myself, because there's a lot of damn pressure in gymnastics. If I have a problem with getting hit, if I got bones then maybe I shouldn't become a football player. Maybe I shouldn't put myself in that situation. It's a contact sport. So where's the self-responsibility as far as this is concerned as well? I agree with Lethal. I absolutely agree with the idea that Black people put an undue level of pressure, and I think that's because of our trauma, on our athletes. I also think that Black people, okay, and I'll park it there. I'll park it there because I want to see what Jice has to say.
You see her face, right?
Yo,
Jice, I need somebody to share this out on your network. Wait, do me a favor, share this out on your network. Drop it in someone's DM. Go ahead, share the link real fast. This is how we have real conversations in our community that are not happening in the mainstream media. So do me a favor, thumbs up us, share a comment, share this broadcast. Do something to keep pushing independent media forward. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Where's the response at? I see y'all, Theo, Jice.
I'm baffled. I'm baffled. I mean, like, because I want to make this bigger than about Simone Biles, but let's just use Simone Biles for just one quick second. Simone Biles has been doing gymnastics long before she had that diagnosis. I mean, she's been doing gymnastics since she was a very small child. So this has been her whole life. She is homeschooled in order to do gymnastics. So as things have developed, as they do, for whatever different reason, kids have all different types of stuff that develop and get diagnosed at whatever different age and whatever different stage, or whatever the case is. So I'm just confused. So a person who has literally done this virtually her whole entire life, like she is in her early 20s and has an entire 20-year career of doing gymnastics, and now she's not supposed to do gymnastics because her particular drugs that she takes for her mental health, which is good on her for actually having a mental health regimen. So now, because that's not allowed in this particular country where she's competing in, and she is the most decorated gymnast there is, and now she's supposed to be looked at as a quitter, or as anybody else is doing something other than what she was here in her purpose to do. And then in addition to that, she also said, well, you didn't say she's a quitter, but what I'm saying is you
every other road does.
But hold on,
but that's not what I said.
But the insinuation that maybe gymnastics isn't for her because she has this mental health disorder, like, is in my opinion ridiculous. Like, that's like this. I mean, I have injuries, so I'm not supposed to go hiking. According to the doctor, I should take some Advil and sit my ass on the couch, right? But I still am active. Else. But I'm still active on a regular basis.
Yeah, but do something else. Do something else where it's not as stressful, where white folks ain't pushing you, where you ain't got to get in front of a microphone. That's part of the fragility.
That's just ridiculous. It is
that's part of the fragility that I'm talking about. Like, we want to go into a sport, and if the sport doesn't fit us somehow, then we want to rearrange the whole situation so that it fits us. Listen, you're actually making my argument. If a child is spending her time inside of a gym and not even going to school, being socialized with other children in order to compete.
I know we're not going to talk about school and socialization, H. Like, wait, hold up. I know we're not about to talk about school and socialization.
So do I. All my children were homeschooled too, but what I'm saying is that there's a trajectory.
And she's not socialized. She did gymnastics with all other type of kids. Like, come on, like that's.
So how do you know she's not socialized?
That's crazy to me because there's nothing that is.
I didn't say she was. I'm just saying, how do you know she's not?
She's not socialized. But that's not even the. I think that's absolutely asinine to expect that people should then just not do anything that makes them feel uncomfortable or outside of whatever
makes them go crazy.
So
listen, Black people, don't do anything that's going to make you go crazy.
Well, that's why this is not making her go crazy. Like, and that's. Okay, hold on. Let me back up for a second. Let me address the
It's
person
not
that
making her go crazy. She
it's
quit.
not. But let me address the person that Theo was talking about as an example. Or who did you mention, Theo? Now I don't even remember no more.
Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson or Jesse Owens.
What I think we're seeing in our evolutionary process, right? Because like for us to make comparisons today, for us to complain about or know how fucked up our situation was back then, and then to make comparisons that people today should have to be as strong, as resilient, as whatever, as all the conditions that we were put under in that circumstance, in that time, in those days, means that we are not willing to allow ourselves any sort of forward progression or any sort of options. Mental health options were not available to those people at that
That's
time.
ridiculous. That's white folks speak. Black people have had mental health since the moment we got here.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
Just because we go into clinics now and we got this shit on the web and apps and we think that's better, evolved, more mental health, that's bullshit. Our culture, Black culture, African culture, which we were more connected to 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago, is our mental health. This shit that we got going on right now is not mental health. So this whole idea that mental health is evolving because we can get it on.
See, you're not even you're so wound up. You're not even listening to what I'm saying. I said nothing about an evolution. What I said is that we were not able.
Yes, you did. You did say evolution.
I'm sorry. Let me clarify what I'm saying. Because I did not say that mental health was evolving. That's not what I said. I did not say the practices for mental health were evolving. That's not what I said. So let me be clear. I said the options for us to practice mental health were not available. And so now for us to make a comparison for somebody to give a fuck about their mental health today and then choose to make the option to choose themselves and to choose their mental health as a priority instead of coping in unhealthy ways like alcohol, drugs, white women, and all the rest of that stuff that they were getting into as a coping mechanism because the options weren't available for them to practice healthy mental health practices and a lifestyle. So we cannot allow ourselves to stay mentally tied down to what we went through and say, well, we should be able to do more and be more resilient because of what we went through back then, and then also continue to talk about how we have to prioritize our ability to be and get healthy because we're constantly put in a state of stress, pressure, not allowed to advocate, not allowed to have agency over ourselves, for ourselves. And then every time we want to make a move, we want to chastise or down talk anybody who's decided to make a move in the other direction. It doesn't make you healthy. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you stronger to continue to push yourself past your limits because 50 years ago, we were able to do that. There are places where grit matters. There are places where discipline matters. There are places where us being able to get through something tough matters. Simone Biles in particular, because like I said, this is not just about her, but in particular, every one of those athletes that made it to the gymnastics, in particular, the Black ones, have overcome an insurmountable amount of obstacles and trials and tribulations and all types of shit just to get there. So it's not like they're weak. It's not like they can't figure it out. It's not like they're not the best in the class, and we should not sit here and tell them that they are weak. So for any woman to say, I'm not going to go and take my kids to see a quitter is completely ignoring the fact that what you went to is you were taking your kids to see the most decorated gymnast, and we have to start changing the narrative about what that looks like.
Let's change the narrative. I want to get my guy Theo E.J. Wilson in there. Theo, where we at with it? And as we say that, I think there's been so many amazing points made. They're clapping for you, Jice, out there in the chat room. They said, Method Man voice, they're clapping for you. I think, we've been having this conversation too, and Theo, as you attack, whatever point you're coming from and discuss this, I think that too many times we have been wearing this burnt out as a badge of honor. In our culture, it's like if you're burnt out, it's a badge of honor, and something about that aspect has got to change. So as you start to address that, Theo, is this, a new form of a badge of honor if you're burnt out, if you're stressed, or is this simply the way of the world and we should just shut up and deal with it? Because I think that shut up and dribble, that thing has went out. We're not in that phase anymore. It's not the shut up and dribble phase anymore. Where are we at now, Theo?
We're at the phase where we have latitude to talk about what's hurting us, but there's a balance that must be struck, and I'm going to reemphasize that point. It's a balance that must be struck because I asked in the beginning, how do we retain our resilience in the midst of this mental health conversation? That to me is very important. The resilience is part of our heritage too. The superhuman shit that was unfair when it was put on us, but also got some of the strongest people the world has ever seen, is a part of our heritage too. And so, like, I think about this as like a new daddy. Like, how do I get my daughter to be strong without hurting her? You feel me? How do I get her to push past obstacles without traumatizing her? I have not have all these answers yet, but what I'm saying is that I'm a boxer, right? I was boxing for a long time. When you step into the ring, you take your chances. That's what it is. As a combat athlete, they sign waivers at the gym for shit like this, right? And when you go into this sport, you could get a brain hemorrhage. You could be killed. There's boxers who've been killed. MMA people break their bones, right? Fold their femurs onto another. Like, and so I think as an athlete, like as somebody who has been specifically a combat athlete who also can do gymnastics to a certain extent, I put my body through shit. And you talk about our limits, but pushing past our limits is actually how you get better.
That's right.
When we push past our limits, when we do that one extra rep, when we go that little extra mile sometimes when you're running, if you don't do that, then you will be defeated by the person who will push past that limit. So there's just a balance, and that's all I'm trying to say, because there, as much of a danger as there is in toxic resilience, there is also a danger in toxic coddling. There's also a danger over there. We could lose a key piece of our heritage.
That's right.
And that is the resilience piece that made us great. I'm not faulting Simone Biles, because guess what? I don't live in her three-dimensional first-person reality. I can't squeeze into her little body and look through her eyes. I don't know. I'm not her. I'm me. I'm just the dude who surveys the landscape and looks at my history and says, this and Simone Biles, take as much time that you have. How do we not lose our resilience? Because this is still a competitive genre, and competition means that there is a zero-sum game. There will be a winner and there will be a bunch of fucking losers. Not just like a loser, there'll be a bunch of losers. This is these are the games that we play. How do we play them without breaking ourselves long term is the answer.
Let me jump back in. Let me jump back in real quick, please. I think there was some misunderstanding, because I've wondered with this, or struggled and wondered about this myself, right? Mm-hmm. Our people, right, are struggling. Our people are hurting. Okay. There's no debate about that. You understand what I'm saying? There's no debating that. There's no arguing against that, right? There's no opposite side of that, because that is a fact. There's too much data out there that shows that our people are struggling. Whether it be that we struggle physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, educationally, we are struggling, period, right? And so what I wonder sometimes is, knowing that we are struggling, both individually and collectively, why make the choice to continue to participate in something that is obviously unhealthy for you in all of those aspects of what it means to be a living human being? Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And so I want to point this out. There's a young brother coming up out of Hillcrest Prep. It's a basketball school, right? Name of Mustafa. He's from Senegal, right? And he has decided and selected to go to Oakland, not Georgia, not Mississippi State, not Texas Tech, not Cal, Oakland. And when he made that decision to do that, all those big phenomenal schools and whatnot were calling his Hillcrest prep coach like, what the fuck? What just happened? And why did it happen? And I applaud this brother, this young man, this 7-foot tall basketball player, because he said, you know what? I'm not messing with them traditionally, predominantly white institutions that have all of this type of pressure and things of that nature on me. I'm going to this little small, mid-major, minor school over here, and I'm going to play my game, and I'm going to do what it is I need to do. And you know what he said? He said, it doesn't matter. If you have the skills, they're going to come for you. And so just imagine, right, the dynamic will change if more of our people decided, you know what, I'm not going to go to Michigan or Ohio State or Florida State. I'm going to go to Grambling. I'm going to go to Southern. I'm going to go to Howard.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Norfolk State.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Just imagine how much of a shift that would be. But the point is, we know that dipping and dabbling in toxic, hyper, Eurocentric America is like a death sentence for us.
That's right.
And so we must take possession, ownership, and responsibility and stop that. That's all I'm saying.
Lethal, do you remember
stop that?
Lethal, do you remember the basketball player Bison Dele that used to play? You remember Bison Dele, and at the pinnacle of his career, he was the most dominant center in the NBA, and he quit and went and got on a boat and floated around, right? So my point is that yes, he quit, and he realized, just like I think we need to realize, and I think this is exactly what you're saying, that the Olympics is just, it's a toxic environment. They don't care about the human beings, the individuals. They don't care about that. So if you know that they don't care about you, if it bothers you, and I'm not saying it shouldn't, but if it bothers you to the degree that it begins to break down your mental health, then stop doing that shit. Go somewhere, go to a different environment
that's healthy for you.
That's healthy for you. That's the point that I'm making. Not to go in and start pointing fingers at people that critique you because you're on the world stage. You're on the world stage. You're going to get critiqued. That's part of the resiliency that I'm talking about. That's the part of what Theo was talking about. You think that freaking Jesse Owens wasn't being critiqued on the same level that of Simone Biles? He was going against Hitler, somebody who killed 6 million people. So I mean, let us remind ourselves that participating in these toxic systems, we can't go in there and expect. It's a mental health issue on our part to think that we're going to go into these spaces and expect to be treated like we deserve to be treated. And the last point that I make, just because parents didn't show up and show themselves Simone Biles because they said she was a quitter, I think that's the wrong message to send. But at the same time, just because she's the best doesn't mean that's the best person for your child to go see. I.e., Mike Tyson was not. He was the best in the world for years and years and years, and you did not want to get caught in a hotel room or a lobby or fucking anywhere else with this nigga because he was fucking toxic, and he admits that now. So just because being the best, again, to Lethal's point, we got to stop idolizing and thinking that, oh, this is who we need to go check out. I want my children to see them just because she can flip around on the floor. Hell, she might be crazy as a damn bed bug. I'm not saying she is. I'm saying that has to stop. To Lethal's point, that has to stop being our litmus test of who we're going to take our children to see in the first damn place.
First of all,
I think that's an issue.
All praises to the Most High. So what you just said was phenomenal. What would you say, Jice? I just feel that it's just ludicrous. So,
Thanks for joining us. Wait,
hold on. I just want to say real quick.
Real fast. Hold on. The people that are just now tuning in, I see a lot of you just now tuning in. We're talking about can the best ever rest. But do me a favor, share this with someone in your network. These are conversations that have to start taking place in the Black community. So share this out for me, drop it in someone's DM, text them the link. I don't care what you do, but get it out to somebody new. It's 7 Generations Black. Go ahead, Lethal.
I was just going to say to, I guess, to Sister Sasa Castleberry, no, we're not saying that in order for her to be a gymnast, she has to take meds to balance herself, then she shouldn't be a gymnast. No, what we're saying is participating in a situation that is unhealthy for you mentally, that can impact you physically, because she could die. She could flip and break her fucking neck. You understand what I'm saying? Why do that for an listen? No one's life is worth a gold medal.
For real. That
You understand what I'm saying? No one's life is worth a piece of fucking metal that isn't a real piece of fucking metal to begin with anyway.
right? Muhammad Ali tossed that shit in the river. So, you know, don't break your neck over some shit that our heroes and sheroes have tossed out anyway.
So as we've gotten to this place, I think one of the questions, because we know at the end of the day, we look at this from a 7-generational lens, and we really look to, I think, help advance the conversations that are happening in our community. And while many of our community are praising Black athletes for taking a stand for mental health, physical health, whatever that looks like, are we even doing enough to protect our young icons, young greatest of all time, whatever we want to say? I think one of the things I looked at when the incident with Sha'Carri Richardson happened, and she found out about her mother's death on national TV, and that was one of the reasons she stated she was doing cannabis. I often wondered, where was her mentor? Where was somebody beside her that said, "Let me hold you close and hold you," because we can't risk you doing this and getting the backlash is going to happen. We can't risk you ruining this opportunity.
Yes.
So I often question, are we doing enough to protect our young icons?
That's right. That's the exact point, right? Like, that's what I was saying. And I started this off by saying that what these young athletes quitting may be more indicative of our social breakdown, of our family net breakdowns that were stronger, right? Sister Marimba Ani said that we were more resilient, that we were stronger and more connected to each other the day that slavery ended than we are today in 2021, as far as how we look out for each other and how we protect each other and the systems of emotional and mental health that we provide each other. So I don't think that, that there's more access to mental health today than there was for us 100 years ago. I absolutely do not. I think we got a lot of fancy machines. I think we got Pilates, and I think people are putting billboards about it. But I think our culture was much tighter, that we were much more connected with each other, that we had screaming rooms in our grandmama's house that they would take women to, that if they needed to scream, that they could go and scream inside of pillows. They had pot that we used to put over our head on the plantation, that if you were going to scream, that you could scream and get it out. We had a multitude of mental health ways to deal with each other. We just haven't talked about it. It's not put out there. But I disagree that we're a mentally more healthy people now than we are then, because then that argument would say that we're physically more healthy people now too, because there's lots of more choices in the grocery store aisle. Having more access to more does not equal to us being more healthy.
That's good. That's real good. I would love to hear from the rest of you in that space. I know we're starting to get to our mindset moment. So in that mindset moment, I'm going to ask you, can the best rest? And are we doing enough to protect our young icons? I'm going to have my guy H-Soul end it, but I'm going to go ahead and start off with you, Theo.
I think the best, man, look, who among us has ever been the best, real shit? You feel me? Who among us really been the GOAT at some shit, right? Who motherfuckers look at like, yo, that's the coldest motherfucker to do it. Like, real talk, all I could do is read biographies and guesstimate real shit, right? But what I will say is that the dialogue can get lost when it gets political, when it gets into our identity and the shit we project onto the argument. We're seeing this all over any talking point that's hot right now. There's a lack of objectivity or a strategy to be objective. And I think that, like, that's the first and foremost thing that we need to figure out how to do. That tool going to help us a lot, because then you'll be able to sift through what all the talking points are and figure out what the tools are, right? And so I feel like she said balance of masculine and feminine expression. I fucks with that, right?
Yeah.
And so for example, like, you have fighters that'll tell you that they got mental health problems and they still step into the ring. Feel me? Like, and they do it with the spirit of detachment from outcome. It would be one thing if Simone Biles, and this is, I think, what tripped her up. is that she spoke up about it when she tripped up. Feel me? It ain't like she did it when she just landed the shit out of something. She did it when she stumbled. And then it was all this stuff. And I guess that it's possible that what makes her great is also what made her want to chill. But we need to find the tools and not let the tools of resilience get lost in the talking points and the passion around mental health. Let's find what healthy resilience looks like. What does it look like?
What does healthy resilience look like? Woo, I need somebody to tell me that answer. My guy, Lethal from a 7-generational lens. Can the best rest? And are we doing enough to protect our young icons, goats, greats? Are we doing enough? Can they rest?
All right, let me just get right to it. No beating around the bush. Can the best rest? Yeah, they have to rest, right? Sleep deprivation is a killer. You understand what I'm saying? Are we doing enough? Absolutely not. It's very simple. You know what I'm saying? From the pressures of expectations that are put on them by society writ large and in general, to include us. We're failing our people. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm going to take it back to the wisdom of our ancestors like I normally do. When a small toe is hurting, the whole body swoops down to attend to it. I don't see that happening.
Say that again. Say that again for him.
When a small toe is hurting, the whole body swoops down to attend to it. And I just don't see that happening. I don't see it happening. When the music changes, so does the dance, right? And what that basically means is I could sum it up the way I want to perceive and the way I want to present it, right? Conditions and situations have changed. We have power. We just don't exercise it because we choose not to exercise it. Again, the young brother Mustafa, who's going to Oakland instead of Mississippi State or Georgia or Texas Tech or any of them other traditionally large white institutions and whatnot, he's recognized that the music has changed. And so his dance is changing. Yeah. And again, just imagine how much more, right, we could control the music and we can control the dance and we can control who we invite to our party to listen to our music and dance to our dances if we did more of the same. So from a 7-generational perspective, we have to be looking out for these kinds of things. We have to stop putting pressure on each other. We have to understand that compassion is not weak. It's not a sign of weakness, right? And I'm going to tell y'all straight up, there is no such thing as a goat. There's no such thing as a goat. Eras change, times change. You may have the best in a particular era, but to compare eras to each other is like comparing apples to oranges. Reason, seasons, and lifetime.
Woo, reasons, seasons, and lifetime. My only lady on the panel, I need you to bring it back home. I need your help in summing this up. Can the best rest? Yeah. And let me just, before we get to that space, I think this is going to be an interesting perspective because this is one of the hardest working women I know. And I've always encouraged her that rest is going to be necessary to get to her next place. Because if there's no rest, her mind's not going to be clear to get to the next place. So I love that we're having this conversation with real achievers and real people of Black excellence. I think that changes the conversation a little bit. So can the best rest? And are we doing enough to protect our young Black icons, our young Black greats, and maybe not goats or maybe goats? I don't know. But let me know from a 7-generational lens.
First, let me say shout out to Sister Vicky Diller who dropped by supporting independent Black media.
We love you.
Y'all should also support independent Black media when you hit the thumbs up, like, and share this out. Don't forget to super chat us up. We are supported by the people. You bring up a really good point, and that's probably why I got really passionate about this topic, right? Because, you know, it's a very interesting conundrum, like, and we've talked about this before with, you know, the concept of the idea of being superheroes, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times people have told me, you know, how strong they see me, how much they, you know, admire whatever that, and all of that is like, it touches me. But also people have said, make sure you reach out and ask for help, make sure you rest, make sure you do these things. And when I do that, balls get dropped, shit don't happen. I ask people for help, they don't come through, right? And so then when you know, and like I've really gotten out of just people say, hey, how you doing? And I'll be like, oh, I'm good. Like, nope, actually, I'm gonna tell you, I'm struggling today, right? And it's interesting because I've been very intentional about being very clear about how I'm feeling and not just brushing it off and saying I'm good. And it's interesting about how often that's still just brushed right up under the rug, right? So when I hear about how someone has gotten to a place where they have said, I am done, I cannot take this anymore, and then we talk about their ability to be resilient, I wonder how many times they asked for help before they got to that place. I wonder how many times they said, I'm struggling, and nobody gave a shit. And people tell them, let me know how you're doing. But when they say how they're doing, nobody is really paying attention, right? And so I think it's interesting because while we in a certain sense romanticize the trauma that we have gone through to get to where we are, which is a noble trauma in its sense because we were forced into these horrible conditions and we are survivors and we have survived. Then when we start talking about the concept and the idea of thriving, it's like we're not really allowed to thrive in this space because we only really remember the trauma and the bullshit that we had to go through to get where we are, which made us this great people who you see, but we're really a great people who are here but are struggling and have so many disparities in so many different places, are so unhealthy on so many different levels, from internalized racism, mental health issues, physical health issues, emotional issues, parenting issues, financial issues, educational issues, and on and on and on, right? So we're here, but we're not thriving. And I think we forget that we actually do come from a part of our history before the Middle Passage, where we did live in harmony and where we did, like that is a part of our heritage too. And when do we start making the track back to harmony? When do we stop accepting that we have to live in a perpetual state of bullshit and stress and these things, right? And which, quite frankly, for me is why, let me start this before I shoot this towards Soul is. I have a whole brand called Grind with Jice, right? So like every day I'm up grinding, right? Like I believe in the grind. I believe in the hustle. I have no problem with that. But also when it is time for me to rest or when I am really struggling or when I'm whatever that looks like I have been very intentional to really work on it for myself because I have asked for help and I don't get help. And I tell people like, I'm not Superwoman. I drop a lot of balls. I got shit ball. If you ask my team, they will be like, well, she ain't as great as y'all think she is. I just got clowned on because I came on late, right? Like the timer was going before I jumped on. Why? Because I'm doing stuff, right? And I'm saying I need help and I need this and I need that and I don't have it. And so, I was already told by this team, there ain't no excuse. You better be
man up. Ain't no excuses.
No excuses. Right?
Only because I got an email at 11:30 last night, but continue.
Because I was working. Right. Because I was working, right? But then I'll throw this, my surprise really, with Soul's reaction. And I think as he, clarified a little bit more, I understood a little bit better. My initial surprise is because, the journey that Soul has been on around holistic health and around us getting back to our roots and reconnecting with, the harmony of the world and the earth and the space that we are meant to be in because we are the originators of this world. And we are the creators of all the amazing, things that, quite frankly, violent white racism is built on top of, right? And so I was really surprised by the idea that, the ideas that I thought he was presenting. But that being said, I think my mindset moment, I'll wrap with this, is we have to remember that it is part of our heritage. It is part of our birthright to live in harmony as well. And absolutely that there is the space of building grit and discipline and pushing ourselves to be excellent. But also to remember that it is our right to live in some level of harmony.
That's real. I love that.
Yeah.
It is our right to live in some level of harmony. Man, this is our mindset moment. You're watching Season 7. My guy who, he got us off to a great start today. Hey, so I'm going to give you that space to just wrap this up for us. The question again is, are we doing enough to support these young icons? We got to remember, a lot of these are young people, these icons, these goats, these greats, and babies. Like a lot of them are really babies, younger than all of us. And then the other side of this is, can the best rest? Yeah.
So first of all, I want us to do two things as I close this out. I want us to question why we're using the term, and I think Lethal already hinted at this, the greatest and the best, right? Like that is a very un-African thing for us to even get into in that sense, right? in order to be considered the best soul singer or the best boxer, Black people generally used to say the best wasn't the person who was on top. The best was the person that represented their people when they were on top. Right. So, but now it has gotten very isolated and very individualistic that we consider the best the person who can flip the most, or the person that hits the ball the best, or shoots the ball the best. But it's the person that shoots the ball the best and then throws up a black fist and say, listen, I may not shoot another ball unless y'all get this shit straight. That is what carried for us as the greatest of all time, which is why Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest of all time, not because he was necessarily the greatest boxer, which could be argued, but because when he had that platform, he used that platform to promote truth and justice for his people. That's what qualified being the best or the greatest of all time for us, not how good you can flip or how fast you can run or how far you could chuck a spear. That's the first part. The second part that I want to make sure that I think that we're that I will close with is that why are, and again, Lethal is hitting on all, y'all need just to go back and just listen to Lethal's parts at a certain point. Why the fuck are the Olympics important to Black people in the first place? Why are we subjecting ourselves to the Olympics? Why couldn't we create something that takes mental health into account, to take Black people? Why do we feel like we need to go to Japan or Europe? And remember, this was a question in 1967 when all the athletes in the Olympics had a debate over whether they should participate in the Olympics or not because it was bad for their mental health. So if it was bad in 67, you know it's fucked up now. And if we ain't got the family supports back in 2021 that we had in 67, then you know it's fucked up now. So the question really becomes is what the fuck are Black people doing spear chucking and shooting hoops and flipping and shit on the world stage when our people are not where they need to be? If you flip, then flip and throw a black fist at the end of that motherfucker and then let us go home, take the gold or the bronze and chuck that bitch and throw up a Colin Kaepernick black fist.
Hey, put your black fist up, and while you're putting your black fist up, make sure you grab your Black Boss Summit ticket. Go to www.blackbosssummit.com, because when we talk about Black excellence, we have to be in Black conferences that are curated by Black professionals, Black leaders, and Black movers and shakers. We want to see you at the Black Boss Summit. Again, remember, I think it's so important that we remember it's not that they don't know our worth. They hope that we don't know our worth. So remember your worth, stay true to who you are, and keep hustling hard for your 7 generations Black. Until next time, peace and love, family. We'll see you at the Black Boss Summit. Peace out, y'all.